Why are you wearing a suit?
I'm just wearing the jacket of one. It's cold outside.
Oh, there's no kind of atmosphere.
Yes.
That's a Red Dwarf reference.
Yes, it is.
So it's Shit's Peak.
Yes.
We're going to take an album which is considered to be the worst of not one artist, but two.
Yes.
We're going to see if they're any good or not.
Yeah, see if it's improved or if it's as bad as everyone says, and just to see what happens. So, what album have you been listening to?
Well, I had 2.5 hours to kill because I was on a plane yesterday.
Yeah.
And I thought, gee, I need a long album to listen to.
So you decided on 69 Love Songs, the Nightfield's 3-disc album.
I wish. No, I decided to stick on the controversial album Lulu by Metallica, and more importantly Lou Reed.
Yes,
which is also
recently deceased.
Recently deceased Lou Reed, the late great Lou Reed.
Yeah.
His final album.
Yes.
So where to begin with
some
context.
Yes.
Lou Reed, as I hope people know, was the legendary frontman of the band Velvet Underground.
Pretty
back
good.
in the 60s. Yeah, pretty decent band.
Pretty much invented punk, post-punk,
alternative
rock,
art rock,
dream pop.
Essentially, they were one of the first bands to sing about sex and drugs and murder and violence and darker subjects.
Darker subjects, yes.
The band wasn't a huge success back in the 60s. Now they're regarded as being one of the best bands of all time.
Yep.
So you got Velvet Underground and Nico, White Light, White Heat,
Velvet Underground
and Loaded. All classic albums which, if you've not listened to, are pretty much all 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 classics.
But don't listen to the Doug Yule album, VU.
Oh yeah.
Or not VU, whatever it's called.
Squeeze.
Yeah.
Yes. I get shudders thinking about it.
Yep.
So the Velvet Underground collapses because it was not a big hit, didn't really have a lot of crossover appeal. Lou Reed begins a solo career. He kind of kickstarts it with a debut album which isn't too great, but then he launches into two of the best albums of the 70s.
Yep.
Transformer and Berlin. Berlin in particular is a classic.
Yep.
And then he goes on to have an inconsistently great career. You know, he has his high points, his low points, but the low points are never as dreadful as like some of Bob Dylan's 80s work. You know,
yes.
Lou Reed remains inconsistently brilliant throughout.
Well,
his career.
think that it's like Bob Dylan. Some of his albums are pretty okay, but at least with Lou Reed, you're either in for a great album or a terrible one.
That's
like
true.
Metal Machine Music is the most infamous one.
Yes. So you've got that one, which is an example of this kind of confrontational music. An album intentionally designed to just alienate everybody
and be almost unlistenable.
Yeah. Except to First and more from Sonic Youth.
Yeah.
So I remember Lou Reed is he's quietly respected amongst people. His records, but they're not massive, but they're loved by critics and fans.
Yes.
Eat them up.
Yeah.
Metallica.
I've only heard a few Metallica songs, so I'm by no means an expert. But they're a bit of a joke, aren't they?
They are a bit of a joke.
Yes.
Metallica, like when you're a certain age and you're into a certain kind of music, Metallica's like the best band ever. And then you grow up a bit. Essentially, Metallica came from kind of both from the opposite coasts, really. Metallica came out of the heavy metal craze of the early 80s. Thrash metal in particular. They're often considered as being part of the big four of thrash metal.
Yeah.
So Metallica, Megadeth, who were pretty shit, Anthrax, who made one good album, and Slayer, who made one good album.
Yeah.
Just ape off the rest. I'm not a big fan of them, to be honest. Megadeth are pretty bad.
Yes. But Metallica have got albums that are considered classics.
Yeah.
Master of Puppets is seen as the best one.
Yeah, that's the peak of their abilities.
Yeah.
So you have but essentially I rate the first 5 albums.
Yeah.
Like from the mid 80s to the very early 90s, I rate Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets in particular, which is probably one of the best metal albums ever. A concept album all about war.
Yeah.
And Justice for All and the self-titled.
Oh, I've heard the Black
Metallica
Album.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I like it. It's fine. It is what it is. It's a pretty decent album.
Yes.
When you're a certain age, it's like the best album ever.
Yes.
But Metallica are also known for, I suppose, in a kind of a similar way to Lou Reed, but to no artistic end, frustrating their audience. Load and Reload came out, and they tried doing more pop albums.
Yeah.
They tried casting themselves as being like the U2 of metal.
Oh no, who wants to be the U2 of anything?
Well, true, yeah.
U2 don't want to be the U2 of U2.
No one wants to be that.
No.
Then you had Saint Anger, which is besides some Lulu, is the worst regarded Metallica album. Saint Anger is dreadful.
Yes.
It's Metallica's attempt to do nu metal.
What's nu metal?
Nu metal stuff like Linkin Park and Slipknot and bands like that. Nu metal. It's dreadful.
Dreadful.
And then Death Magnetic, the latest album, which is horribly average. All it does is just copy off better older Metallica songs with shitter production. Basically, all the dials are punched up to like max, so you lose all the dynamics. It just all sounds like. It sounds horrible. So I suppose in a similar way, Metallica do frustrate the fans like Lou Reed does, but Lou Reed did it for artistic ends.
Yeah.
Well, Metallica doesn't. Metallica probably do it just to
just to be arseholes.
Just be arseholes.
Yes.
So Metallica, in terms of like the wider critical world, are not very well regarded.
No.
But
also the problem is Metallica released that documentary. Some kind of monster. Where they got to therapy, where they lost every fan they had. Every fan they had. Cool.
Yeah. They're just like
he doesn't listen to me. He just value my artistic contributions.
But it's like a bunch of like whiny 8-year-olds or like 14-year-olds.
Yes.
They don't come across very well. Well, Lou Reed has always retained a kind of like mystique about him. So in a long about way, this brings us to Lulu.
Yes.
Which I need to read this in my Lou Reed guide.
Okay.
About what it's based on. So apparently, it's based on Lulu. The album is based on 2 plays by scandalous German writer Frank Wedekind, who wrote Eglist, which means Earth Spirit, in 1895, and Dia Bruce de Pandora, Pandora's Box, in 1904, which tells the story of Lulu, a sexually adventurous courtesan who falls into poverty, slavery, and prostitution before coming to a messy end at the eviscerating hands of Jack the Ripper. So this is definitely more of a Lou Reed kind of thing.
Yes.
It's got echoes of the Berlin album.
Mm-hmm.
And so the album was announced.
Well, everyone went mental saying it looked awful.
Yeah, just the concept of Lou Reed and Metallica, an incredibly subtle, quite, subdued artist, relatively, against Metallica.
Yes.
A bizarre choice.
It is, especially if you consider the kind of albums he makes. Like, he doesn't make White Lightning anymore. White
Heat.
But he seems to make stuff more like, I don't know, loaded, gentle strumming,
Yeah. He, like his last album, Hudson Windsea Meditation, was an album of just ambient music.
Exactly, it's quiet.
He's got to the point now where he just does whatever he wants.
Yes.
He's like, I don't want to do a tour where I give a reappraisal of Berlin, and I don't care no one likes Berlin, I'm going to do it.
Yes.
And probably because of that tour, Berlin was revised and given a reappraisal, and now it's regarded as being the best in his discography, right?
Yeah.
So essentially he's an artist that does what he wants, while Metallica do what the money tells him to do.
Yeah.
And then we released I think a 30-second clip from the song The View.
Yes.
Which was just met with just derision and hatred on the internet. And then the full song came out, people were just like, this is fucking dreadful.
That's I am the table.
I am the table. I am the tablet.
Do you think people reviewed this album before it even came out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd already decided it was shit.
Yeah.
Also, I think a lot of... I don't want to sound condescending or quite sweeping, but I think a lot of metal fans didn't really know who Lou Reed was.
No.
All they heard was this wailing old man singing over Metallica songs.
Yeah.
And then the full album came out and pretty much everybody was just like, shit, it's dreadful.
Yes. It got, I think, famously a 1.8 in that Pitchfork.
Yeah.
And pretty much, everyone... this is easily, I think, the worst considered album of Lou Reed's career, just because every other one, even though some of them are seen as worse, have defenders.
Yeah.
This doesn't really have any defenders.
Sally Can't Dance is regarded as being a really average album, but it's got that song Kill Your Sons, which is a classic Lou Reed song.
Yeah.
And even Metal Machine music has its fans. Like we said, First and More from Sonic Youth said if it wasn't for that album, he probably would have made Sonic Youth. a bad world indeed.
Yes.
So
not worth living in.
I mean, from what I could gather, there was kind of some positive reviews, more like, well, that was interesting, but it didn't really work. So
divorced from all of the hype.
So it's
all the black and white Darren Aronofsky directed videos.
It's 4 years down the line.
4 years down the line.
Now Lou Reed's gone.
We can divorce ourselves from that hype. What did you think of Lulu?
I actually really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I thought it was a really good album.
Yes.
I thought it was an interesting borderline failure.
Yeah.
Like, at times it doesn't really work, but I kind of got into it.
Yeah.
I was really just like, you don't really think about the concept. The concept is kind of ridiculous.
Does the concept even get played up a lot? Is it like The Wall, where every song relates to it?
Not really. It's more like little vignettes in the life of presumably this Lulu.
Yeah.
But all it is basically, it's a 21st century Berlin.